This is Marcus Korval with Studio MMA and MMA Nut, and we're here at Black House in Los Angeles with Jordan Smith, who's fighting on Friday in Bellator, a replacement, and you're fighting David Rickles, the Caveman Rickles, who's 9-0. You look young, you look like you're a late replacement, but you got a pretty good record, 17-2.
It's actually 16-2-1, yeah. 17 is on Sherdog. They got one of my amateur fights on there as part of my pro record, but as a pro, I'm 16-2-1, yeah.
And as I mentioned, you came in late on this card. How did it come about? How did you get that replacement call?
We actually got a call last Friday, so we had a 2-week notice. Turns out Brian Foster didn't clear his medicals. I guess there was something in his brain that the doctors didn't like, so he got the boot, and I got the opportunity to step up and fight Dave Rickles, who's definitely a worthy opponent for a big opportunity in the Bellator tournament.
He's 9-0, one knockout, mainly submissions. He's obviously a great grappler. You're more of a stand-up guy. How are you training for the 2 weeks notice that you got for the fight?
Luckily for me, I've been at the Black House. I've been here in LA training for about 5 weeks now. I was getting ready for another fight that was supposed to happen in Vegas, and then another fight that was supposed to be in Brazil, and both of those got canceled on me. So I was in good shape. I was a little overweight 2 weeks ago when they called us for it, but the weight's back on track now. I'm ready to go. As far as his submissions, he's mainly a striker too. He likes to concentrate on his stand-up to begin fights and tries to finish him with stand-up. And it turns out, he just always ends up on the ground because the other guy either takes him down or he knocks the guy down with punches, and then he finishes him with, submissions. So me and him are both primarily strikers, I believe. That's what he likes to claim. So I think striking is what you're going to see most of in our fight, which is going to be really exciting because everybody likes to see people get knocked out. So.
And this is not just a fight in Bellator, it's part of the 170 tournament. How excited are you to get a chance to go in there? I think it's 3 fights in 3 months, correct?
It's actually 4 fights to win if you actually win the tournament.
Right.
It's a 16-man tournament, so you'd have to win 4 fights to be the champion of the tournament.
But it's on a very short period of time, correct?
Yeah, I believe 2 months is the maximum they can have between each fight. That's what they've scheduled them at, and they want to do them every month. You're right.
And obviously, fighting one as a paycheck for your profession, being an employee of the Bellator organization, is obviously great for your pocket.
Yeah.
Preparing for a fight a month at the latest, like you said, 2 months. Have you ever done that before?
I have. I used to try to fight every 2 months at least when I first started as a pro, when I first got into actual pro fights. And there was a couple times when I had back-to-back fights. The shortest turnaround I've had is 3 weeks between fights. So for me, it's just like there's no off season, so you never get to eat what you want. You don't get to go home and the next day go eat McDonald's or have a big fat steak. I just keep eating clean. Don't ever leave the gym, and as long as you don't get hurt too much in the fight, it's not a big deal. If you don't get too many bruises and bumps from the fight, the turnaround that quick is not bad at all.
So when you got the call last week, how far out from weight were you? Because I saw you last week. You look a lot leaner today than you did a week ago.
I was actually 24 over. Yeah, so I've 24 pounds in 2 weeks, which isn't that bad. Other guys do a lot more. Usually I don't like to do more than 15 to 18 pounds in the last 2 weeks, but it wasn't bad.
And you fly out tomorrow, correct, in order to be there, and you like you said, you're on track. Friday night on ESPN. Is this your biggest fight in your career so far?
Yeah, I think so. This is kind of like my second chance to break out into the big show. I was a contestant on Tough 11 for the UFC, the Ultimate Fighter show, and I got knocked out trying to get into the house by Brad Tavares by a crazy knee that came out of nowhere. So that was kind of like my first huge opportunity. This is now my second chance to come out and show the world, what I'm made of and what I've been working on and how good of a fighter I am. So this is definitely the biggest fight of my career now. And
going into the Tough 11 house, what's the difference between Jordan then and Jordan now?
Jordan then weighed 185. He fought at a higher weight class. He was undefeated He was 10-0. He had 1 draw on his record, so he'd been 5 rounds in the championship rounds, and he thought he knew what tough fights were. But this Jordan knows how to lose and come back be strong in the face of adversity. I've learned from mistakes I've made in past fights. I've got 2 losses on my record now, not including the knockout from Brad Tavares on the show.
Right.
I've got a lot better wrestling because of those losses. I lost to Josh Berkman, mainly because he was such a better wrestler than I was. Yeah. And then I got caught by Tim McKenzie because I was fighting angry. I used to be an angry fighter. So the biggest difference between me now and then was now I'm much more composed. If I've got aggression, it's kind of it's much more controlled than it used to.
Nice.
Used to be. I used to just want to kill my opponent and rip his head off. You know what I mean?
Why is that?
That's just how I fought. That's how I used to play football too. So I was just angry and I had to hate my opponent. You know what I mean? To be able to fight well. Now I'm more. There's a lot more respect for the sport in general, the art of martial arts in general. And I don't have to hate my opponent to want to punch him in the face and do well at punching him in the face, And I think that's the biggest difference is I can think better, I can fight smarter because I'm not angry.
So experience, maturity perhaps, where did the change come? When did you realize this?
After I got knocked out by Tim McKenzie. You get knocked out in 11 seconds and you got to reevaluate yourself. You go home and look at yourself in the mirror and you have long talks with yourself, But no, after I got knocked out by McKenzie, I got to spend 2 months in Brazil with Anderson Silva. And me and him got to talk a little bit about, the mental side of it. And obviously, who's got better experience than dealing with pressure and, where your mind's at during a fight than Anderson. And in Brazil, at the end of those 2 months, I got to fight Carl Parisian, who's one of the best names that anybody would know from the UFC.
You fought him in Brazil?
Yeah, we fought in Manaus in September of last year, and it was at that point in my fight career, after getting knocked out from Tim McKenzie, my very next opponent was Carl Parisian, where I had to reevaluate my style because with Tim McKenzie, we had a game plan. He was a southpaw. I was supposed to be moving to my right and circling with my combinations, and I just went straight in and got caught with the hook that we knew he was going to be throwing. So I was so angry during the fight, before the fight, that I didn't implement my game plan. I didn't think. I wasn't fighting smart. I was fighting angry. Right. So for Caro, it was, all right, we're going to stay calm. We're not going to get angry. We're going to let ourselves feel the nerves before the fight instead of combating them with anger, and implement your game plan. Move your feet. I've got all these tools that I can use if I'm in my head during the fight, and I fight smart. And that's what I did with Caro, and I beat him up for 3 rounds and won a tough decision. It was actually a unanimous decision where all 3 judges in Brazil had scored it 29-28 for me. But for some reason, my managers explained to me that the judges there believe or think that it's a unanimous only if you win all 3 rounds. So they call it a split if you won 29-28, even if all 3 judges gave you the decision. So technically, by our standards, our judging standards, it was a unanimous decision. So there was a little confusion there, even from me. I didn't understand it, but.
So it's actually a misconception from the Brazilian judges when they report the scoring to Showdog. So Showdog, you need to change that. It's a unanimous decision, correct?
Well, they actually announced split decision, but my managers who are Brazilian, Joinha Guimarães, told me, explained it to me. So.
And you moved out here. Are you permanently in Los Angeles now, or are you going back? You're from the Midwest, correct?
Originally, yeah. We moved there as a family when I was 12, so I went to high school and college in Illinois, from Collinsville, Illinois, and I went to school at McKendree University in Lebanon, Illinois. It's right next to St. Louis, right across the river. And about 5 years ago, I moved to Utah when I got a job teaching 7th grade science at West Point Junior High.
7th grade science, not bad. So, but you're more of a striker. You mentioned it earlier, and still you grew up in the Midwest, where most people in America would expect you to be a wrestler. Did you wrestle at all?
I wish I had. No, I was a football player all through high school and college, but now that I fight, I wish I would have wrestled.
And do you feel that your football training in any form or shape has helped you in your mixed martial arts career?
I think the only thing that football helped me with, in my mixed martial arts career is, mental toughness and being able to train hard enough to get to where you need to be physically to get ready for a fight. Other than that, there's not a lot of skills that cross over. You know what I mean? When I try to take people down, I still try to like tackle them instead of do a proper formed shot for wrestling. So I think if I would have wrestled, I'd have been better off.
And back to Karo Parisyan, a lot of people haven't heard from Karo Parisyan obviously since his split with the UFC. How was it in there with Karo? How is it? Did you speak to him after the fight?
We got to talk before and after the fight a little bit. Yeah.
Before the fight, how was that?
Yeah, it was funny because we were in the same buffet line after the weigh-ins, and then I was playing ping pong next to him, so we kind of just played around a little bit.
Before the fight, you're playing ping pong next to your opponent.
Yeah.
Well, in Brazil.
Yeah, I acted like I pulled my hamstring, and it was funny, but it was sweating. It was crazy hot in Manaus, so I was like playing ping pong, and he was laughing because I was like dying from the heat, but it was real relaxed and we were both comfortable, but before the fight we were all business. There was mean mugging and angry faces, and then after the fight we got to talk a little bit. There was a lot of respect. I was happy to get the opportunity to fight a guy of his caliber, and after the fight I think he realized that I was definitely a game opponent and capable of standing in the cage with guys like him.
And your record is obviously a great record with 16-2 and 1 draw. You've been in there with, like you said, Tim McKenzie and Karo Parisyan, and getting to train with some of the best in the world. You said you were in Brazil with Anderson Silva. You're here at Black House. How much have you changed? Not just, you said, your attitude towards the fight, the mental game, but your physical side. You said since your fight with Tim, that's when you realized it's time to change it up a bit. What else are you doing differently, and how do you look at the sport in itself differently?
I've definitely been gaining a lot of skill in my wrestling and my jiu-jitsu. Before I just thought I could rely on my stand-up to get me through fights, and if I got taken down, then my jiu-jitsu could save me from ground and pound, or I could get up, or anything like that. So for the last year and a half, everybody I've trained with here has definitely been helping me get better with my wrestling and my counter jiu-jitsu, my counter wrestling. And then when I go back home to Utah, where I own a home and live and train most of the time, everybody can really tell a difference. It's hard for me to gauge, until I go back and say I wrestle with somebody I hadn't been with in a little while, and they used to just kill me wrestling, take me down at will, and now they can't take me down at all. And they go, wow, you've really improved your wrestling. So that's one of the things I definitely, have been working on the last year. And looking in the overall scheme of things, all fighters always want to try and get more well-rounded, you know what I mean? And if wrestling was my weakest game, then that's what I should have been working on, and I'm glad I have, and I've gotten better at it.
Being a science teacher, do you feel that helps you at all? Understanding science of whether, with fighting or outside of fighting, but do you feel that it gives you any type of an advantage? I
don't know. It's I guess it could. Not that I'm smarter in science than anybody who hasn't taught 7th grade science, you know what I mean? But that side of it interests me more. So, as I look at my diet, and then I'll try to research what kind of things are supposed to be giving me more energy, and what is this vitamin going to do for my body, and things like that. So that can help, I guess.
From Black House in Los Angeles with Jordan Smith, who's fighting on Friday night, MTV2. You can watch him in the Bellator tournament, and I'm pretty sure this is not the last you see of you, correct?
Yeah, I hope not. Thanks a lot, Marcus.
Thank you.